to be professional.
What? I swear I thought they were both. Well, what they don't know is that we literally just walked in the building 30 seconds ago. So
Literally,
trying to get our shit together. So
we're ready. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. This is our first live pod, so we're excited about it. So thank you guys for coming out. And obviously, you can subscribe to our podcast on the Uninterrupted Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. You can always obviously hit us up on our socials. My @name is @TeamVic. His is PR_RWTW. So what's up, P? How you been, man? Let's talk to the people.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was actually a little nervous, this being our first live podcast. But I wasn't nervous for me. I was nervous for you.
For me?
Wasn't sure how you'd be in front of a large crowd.
Gotcha.
If you'd be able to perform.
Okay.
You know, so.
Never done that before.
Yeah, no. So you seem to be doing okay so far. So
far, so good.
I think we're good. So I know we're going to cover a lot of stuff. We're going to cover, I think, some NBA stuff, some NFL stuff. And as our producer handed us our notes, I saw what the first question.
LeBron, is he staying?
LeBron,
is he going?
He's staying. What do we think let's start here. What do we think he's doing? Do we think he's staying or do we think he's going?
Should we do it? I want to do a show of hands.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of
Go ahead, let's do it.
Show of hands, who thinks LeBron is staying in Cleveland? Wow.
Okay.
It's a decent amount. How many people think he's going to the Lakers?
Oh, wow.
It was a jolt. I saw a jolt from the shoulder. Okay.
How many people think he's going somewhere else, not staying in Cleveland?
Brooklyn.
The one guy from
You
Brooklyn.
said that's the door?
Brooklyn. Brooklyn. No, Toronto. Okay, Toronto's a great city.
It's never happened.
It's a great city.
Stop it.
So let me ask this. So not what you think he's going to do. What do you think he should do? How many people think he should stay? Okay. You think he should stay?
I think he should stay.
Really?
We've had this conversation.
We have not.
Let's have it. I think he should stay because I think he should not stay with the current team that's there. I think he should stay and do one of these. Let's recruit, let's bring in the guys. Because I think that I want him to be the guy that stays in Cleveland. Obviously, he's done his stint in Miami, but he came out to Cleveland, won them a championship, and I want that part of his legacy to continue. I want that part of it. I want that to be the larger story that overpowers the multitude of great things that he's already got under his belt. And the last leg of that is completing your career in your hometown team. Not everybody gets the opportunity to even do that.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's funny. I mean, most of you may or may not know. Obviously, we have a relationship with LeBron. He's a friend, business partner. So I've had the question asked, as I'm sure you have, 10 times a day, no exaggeration. And I think for me, where I always go to is, and I'd love your perspective on this, is people always automatically go to like on court or on field or on pitch. I don't think people really factor in like family,
which is a huge factor.
Right? So like even your situation, when you went and you worked out for the Bears, right? For you, I remember, speaking with you daily, as you thought through that process, football was just a portion of the equation, right? Can you talk a little bit about what factors in for you, or just athletes in general, as they consider other destinations to play in?
Well, obviously, especially for football players, one is, your family situation. Do you have what's your family situation like? Do you have children? How far away do you want to be from them when you're playing? Another thing is just necessity. Like, you got to play and you got to put food on the table, so you got to take whatever's there. And then the lucky ones are the guys that, are able to check what states have, no state tax.
That's a consideration.
That's a huge consideration. So they can maximize the amount of money that they can accrue in whatever period of time that they're playing in that state. So those things added up together, you kind of, weigh those options out and see where you net out, and then make your decision based off that. So for me, it was, okay, Chicago's a hour and a half, 2-hour flight max. I won't be that far away from my daughter or my family. So it made the decision that much easier. If I had factored in that the quarterback stunk, and we'll just turn the page on that. We'll just turn the page.
You know this is live. We can't edit post-show.
I got to call the producer.
Yeah, we should figure that out. It's funny, people ask me, like I said, all the time, what I think he'll do, and the honest answer is I don't know. And the honest answer is I don't think he knows right now. He's on vacation with his family right now. But I do think it's not as easy an equation or thought process as everyone thinks it is, right? So I think everything factors in. You got to look at it like when he made his first move to Miami, when LeBron made his first move to Miami, his kids were young, right? He didn't even have a daughter at the time. He just had the 2 boys. And when he came back, it was coming home. So that's actually a plus, right? No matter where home is. And now when you look at the ages, Bronny is, 13.
Let's be clear, Bronny's about to dunk on somebody. I don't know, have y'all seen this video? They've seen it. She was like, I saw it, yep.
Bronny's a problem.
He's about to, and any day now, he's going to dunk on someone.
He's a problem. And he's going into 8th grade.
That's crazy.
So when you start to think through that, like that's something he has to factor in that he did before. And it's not apples to apples. It's him being home and leaving home, right? So I think it's a lot of things to consider. I think this is the first and last time I'll ever say I'm happy I'm not LeBron James. I have to deal with this because ultimately, as you know, in these decisions, there's no perfect solution. No one's going to be.
I have one last question for you before we switch gears and switch topics. Do you think, how important is it for him to potentially play with his son one day? Could you imagine both of them either on the same team or opposing would be fantastic if that's what you want.
No, so it's funny because I've been around LeBron for probably going on 10 years now through my work at Nike and Beats and just the relationship we have. And Bronny's always been good. His son has always been really good, but he's always been really young, right? So it's like, he's good, but he's 7. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my nephew's good too. He's 7, and I think we've downplayed it, like a little bit out of like not to put pressure, not to kind of, it was like, and then he started popping up on YouTube. And you're like, you saw Bronny's game last week? He's like, he's okay. And then I think now there's no debating like, oh, he's the goods. Yeah, right? 100%. So the thought process becomes you start doing the math of he's in 8th grade, 5 years. Yeah. Is one and done going to be done by then? Can he go straight?
I would do the math.
So we had the conversation and he had said, which is public knowledge now, I was surprised he said it, that the ultimate goal for him, bigger than winning an NBA championship, would be playing with his son.
Yeah, I actually did see.
But so many things have to go right for that to even be a thing. Like so many things, like health, his son being good enough to be one and done, or maybe even go straight out of high school by then. So we'll see. I mean, he said that if it did happen, if they played on opposite teams, he would play that game and retire right after that game. So I'm going to hold him to that, but think about that. Okay. Imagine, because he's like, there's nothing greater.
That's the way to, that's the way to go. Right? But what if his team's number 1 in the Eastern Conference and they're about to, how do you do that?
It's a good problems to have.
How do you do that?
Good problems to have.
Switching gears, Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Does he stay in San Antonio? Does he leave?
You know what? Let's take
the whole situation.
Yeah, I was just gonna, let's take a step back. I think San Antonio has been one of the most respected organizations in sports, not just basketball, in sports. And Coach Pop is, arguably the greatest basketball coach ever to coach, if not, he's one of the. So I'm just shocked this is even a conversation. I'm shocked it's gotten this far. Yeah. I'm shocked it's become public. I have so much faith in Coach Pop that I still think to the 12th hour he's going to figure out a way to make it happen. But if not, he's going to get value for it, right? I mean, I think we live in a world, especially around sports, that it's what have you done for me lately?
Exactly.
And people have forgotten that Kawhi was in the MVP conversation. Kawhi was,
Kawhi arguably beat the Golden State Warriors by himself.
Yes, Kawhi is arguably the best two-way player in the NBA. So we're not talking about, a guy that's an all-star and averages 18 points a game. We're talking about a top 3 player in the NBA when healthy, top 5 for sure.
The crazy thing I always see about Kawhi, are there any photos of him smiling?
No.
All the photos I see, it's just him with this permanent scowl. Yeah.
He's got the Tim,
and then
I call that the Tim Duncan smile. It's internal.
It's smiling inside.
Smiling inside.
But what I think is, man, I think he's genuinely upset about something that went on within that organization, right? No one just wants to up and leave one of the best organizations and the best coach, arguably, of this generation. I think something happened that we don't know about, whether it's pertaining the injury or pertaining his rehabilitation process, or whatever the case may be. I think something went wrong there that he wasn't fond of and he wants out.
Let me ask you, because you've played for one of the most respected franchises, definitely in football, if not all of sports as well, the New York Football Giants. There we go, yeah, there we go. Yeah, absolutely. What is that like when, and I'm not saying for you to speak about you personally, but Does that really happen, like infighting within organizations, with an athlete, and what's that like when, because to me the most shocking thing with the whole Kawhi thing was when it started getting out that he wanted second opinions, that he didn't trust the organization.
Exactly.
To me, that's like bigger problems. So what's that like for an athlete, like that trust, that communication within your organization?
It's a lot, especially, major injuries is one thing. When you tear something or you need some surgery and you're going to be out for a substantial amount of time. But when it's a soft tissue injury, or when they're reporting back to the front office and saying, well, he's healthy in our book, he's got an X-rays are negative, MRI seems clear, but he's just the one that saying that he's not all the way there yet, he's not ready. So when you have that dynamic, it definitely causes a little bit of friction between yourself and the organization, because it's like, okay, who are we listening to? All of the doctors that get paid a lot of money and that we trust, that have been, some of these trainers and medical staff have been with these organizations for over 30, 40 years. So they trust them. Or do we go with you who, for lack of other words, we just met you, a couple years ago, and you're telling us that you're not ready, but everything else on this side from the medical staff says you're ready. So, and you have that dynamic, it could definitely create some friction within organizations, and I've definitely seen it myself.
I think, my personal opinion, not insider information, I think the relationship was very salvageable at the beginning. When I first looked up and said, this may be a problem, was when Tony Parker came out and said, I had the same injury, and I'm back. I think,
Well, they had like a team meeting, right, or something,
Yeah.
and then they had spoken about it and kind of cornered.
And I'm okay,
Kawhi.
but I'm okay. I'm even okay with that. It's like when you go public.
Okay, yeah.
When I'm like, I showed up to the podcast on time.
In
Vic,
that,
you know
in
what I'm
that
saying?
exact posture like that?
Yeah, like this is my podcast posture. I showed up to the podcast on time. Like Vic had the same. I think when Tony went public, when Manu went public, when some of that stuff starts coming out, I can only imagine as an athlete when you start to think to yourself like, well, I don't know if I want to go to war with those guys. So net. I mean, I just read on the way here that I think the Lakers are making a really big push. To get Kawhi. By the way,
let's be very clear. You know what? You saw my eyes light up. If the Lakers somehow manage to get Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and LeBron James, and they manage to keep either Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and really much those two. I think everybody else is pretty much, I guess Brandon Ingram, you can throw him in there. And they manage to keep one of those pieces and then just fill in with role guys, they're smooth sailing.
You think that's enough to beat Golden State?
1,000%. It all matters on who they fill, the bench and who comes off the bench and what type of roles those guys have, and everyone buying into their role, of course. But those three alone, I'd take those three against everyone in this room, including myself, and we'd lose.
Did you see Magic Johnson's interview yesterday when they asked him if there was any pressure to land a free agent?
No, what did he say?
First of all, he was disgusted by the question. When someone's too good for a question, he was appalled.
Just hit you with one of these,
He was like, pressure? I'm Magic Johnson. Not Irving. I'm Magic Johnson.
He said Magic?
Hard stop. Yeah, let that soak in for a little bit. I'm Magic Johnson. I've played in NBA Finals. I played against Larry Bird. Ain't no pressure. And then double back. I'm Magic Johnson.
He said it twice.
Twice.
Wow, I love that.
And I think he's like, if I don't land a free agent, I'll step down. That's how sure he is. That's Magic, though, baby.
I mean, and it's LA too. That's got to be. People are clamoring to play there. Obviously, Paul George is from the area. He wants to play there. Obviously, LeBron has his Hollywood ties that everyone is kind of thinking about. He wants to go there. So and Kawhi just wants to get out of San Antonio. So he won't care either.
Have you? Speaking of Kawhi, actually, have you heard of this whole 3-part mini documentary ESPN?
Oh, for Paul?
For Paul George.
Yeah, I saw about that. Do we care about that? Should we do another poll? Do we care about Paul George's documentary? Show of hands.
Crickets.
Wow.
For you people just listening,
and those were out of pity. The ones that was out of pity.
They looked around and were like, damn.
They're like, we'll give him one. We'll give him one.
Look, I just think, and it's interesting, having this conversation here. I think, which can take us down a whole other path, we won't go, but when there's too much content.
Yeah.
It's I feel like people are doing stuff now. Actually, a lot of athletes are doing stuff now that's not adding up to anything.
Oh, talk about it. This is new. We didn't talk about this before.
I feel like I just don't see any upside for Paul
Doing a doc.
Doing a 3-part, 6-minute
Especially a doc about his basketball free agency.
He's not the biggest free agent this season.
Agreed.
So, like, he shouldn't, you know what I'm saying?
Now, a doc on him and his fishing and that aspect of him, no, seriously, I want to see that. I think I would want to see more of the other side of Paul George.
Yes, not necessarily just about free agency.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think it's too much.
I don't think we're checking for it. And I do agree with you. I think a lot of athletes are just content, thinking that that's what they need to do, but it's more so about curated content, what it's about, what are you aiming to get out of this content, not just doing content for the sake of doing content. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we didn't discuss, but, I would love your take on this. Being an athlete with a very, very strong brand, how conscious are you of the content you put out, even on your own, like, social platforms?
Extremely. I mean, everything is curated. Everything that goes out into the world, everything that's on my Instagram, whether it's my personal page or the Victor Cruz Foundation page or anything that I'm attached to, I make sure that it's will my mother approve it if she sees it, which most of it's pretty approved by her. But B, is this going to engage my followers? Is this going to engage people to look at my page more, to look at my IG story, to pay attention to what I'm doing? How can I get more people to follow me and things like that? So everything's very much curated for sure.
You know what my favorite post of all time of yours is, right?
Oh, God. I think I know. So, the vacation one?
Yeah.
You can tell the people.
So for those of you that follow Victor, or actually follow, a lot of athletes, there's this perception from fans that athletes should do nothing else in life on earth but train for their sport. So Vic one year posted in the off season, right?
Now.
In the off season, on vacation. I don't remember where you were. But
I remember just being like this somewhere, like on the beach.
But what I remember was like, it wasn't even, we've all seen those posts of people flossing right in front of the big mansion or in front of the Phantom or in front of, whatever, or if you're Floyd Mayweather, in front of $2 million cash.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a picture of Vic like in a driveway and he had like his bag down.
Yeah,
and it may have said something like, honestly, it may have said something, the caption may have read, life is good, let's keep striving, to be happy. Like literally as like
positive
hearted as possible. And the first comment was, there better be a damn football in that bag. You better be ready for the season. Camp was like 4 months away.
It really is.
There better be a damn football in that bag.
But that's what, first of all, that's what New York City sports is all about. And then B, but that's what, people are always, once that Super Bowl goes up and whoever wins it, fans are like, all right, we got to get ready for the next one. What are our guys doing? And now we have access to what they're doing. We know what they're doing. We can see what they're doing. They're posting videos about what they're doing. And when fans see that they're not doing what they feel like they should be doing, they can voice their opinion about it.
I remember calling you and being like, maybe you should post you working out or something.
Just one.
Yeah, I'm like, I know you are working out. Maybe you should post it. He's like, no, I'm not going to post it.
Speaking of working out.
Yes, I have. Oh, go ahead. I thought
you have not worked out in a while.
I've lost a solid like 4 pounds.
On the walk here? Jesus.
What were you going to ask?
Jerry Rice. He said he can play again. Jerry Rice is,
55.
Correct. Jerry Rice is 55 years old. Do you think Jerry Rice still has enough left in the tank to come across the middle and let Jalen Ramsey take his head off?
With all due respect, which, by the way, you're going to be disrespectful. When
I'm letting you go first. I'm letting you go first.
Jerry Rice needs to sit down somewhere, man.
1,000%.
You're 55 years old, dog.
Yeah.
Like,
Where's my main camera? Is it that one there? Hey, Jerry, have a seat, man. Trust me, these kids are built differently nowadays. There's something else in the water, in the milk. I don't know what it is, but you don't want to go back into that fire, man, I promise.
Jerry's,
just go be a Hall of Famer, man. You've done it all.
He's one of my favorite football players of all time, so I'm not going to.
Do you love the commercial? Do you love the Popeyes commercial you did with the two
chicken wing rotating on his face?
That wasn't your favorite one?
Not okay. I'd rather him do another one of those.
People.
I'd rather him do. He doesn't have people. He's doing stuff like that.
Yeah. He's on
I'd rather him do another chicken commercial
than go back
to the NFL. Like,
I think I'd rather him play football. He had a chicken rotating, dog.
Nah, it wasn't.
With the helmet.
Okay. It wasn't okay. One thing, did you catch the draft, NBA draft?
I did not. I was out of the country.
No, we're just talking about. So Vic sent an email to our producer asking him something, and our producer's response was like a total what we call style on Vic. he simply could have answered the question and kept it moving. He's like, hey, Vic, sorry, I'm out of the country right now, and then answered the question. So we were talking on the way in, we were saying there's no humble way to say, like, you're out of the country, you know? So you were out of the country?
I was out of the country, unfortunately, so due to the time constraint, I couldn't catch the draft.
So I was going to ask you if you felt who did the best in the draft.
Okay.
Any Knicks fans here? New York Knicks fans? Okay. Are you guys happy with the pick?
Are we not in New York?
What is happy with the pick? So the Knicks picked the kid out of Kentucky.
Okay.
Kevin Knox, 6'9", wing. He's 18. He's a baby.
Just happy they picked an American.
I think he's got a shot. To me, the most intriguing pick was the Denver Nuggets at 14. They took Michael Porter Jr., who slid down. So he's the kid with the back issues.
He's the one that at Purdue, correct?
Missouri.
Missouri, that's the one.
Yeah, so you said same color?
Same color jersey.
Okay, we'll go with that. It's your show. It's fine. It's totally fine. I think he's interesting. I think he could be like Jason Tatum good. Like he's a legit 6'9", 6'10", whatever he measured in at. But he's got a back problem, and to be 18 and have back surgery or whatnot is like scary. I mean, there's people saying he might have gone 1 or 2 had he not had the back issue, so he slid damn near almost out of the lottery. So that'll be interesting. The lottery to me is always like, it's the lottery, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can get the kid that's the next, Michael or LeBron. You get a kid that's, driving you an Uber here in 3 years, So I'm always super interested to see, like, just the flow of who goes where and where they're projected. I love redrafts. You ever seen that? Like, it's like, hey, you redraft the class of 2005. Or
I've seen that. I've seen those.
How would that go? Draft night for you. You have a different story, obviously a successful story, but what was your draft night like?
Draft night wasn't, my draft experience was, it was the first year that the draft was 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday. So they just did the first round.
How many rounds was it?
7.
7 rounds, okay.
So solely the first round was on Friday. Saturday was 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then Sunday was 5th, 6th, and 7th. So the first day I was just chilling.
Now let me ask you this. You just finished your senior year at UMass.
Correct.
Monster numbers.
Monster numbers, yes.
Right? You signed with an agent.
Signed with an agent, a local agent out of...
What is your agent telling you? Is he telling you you're going to get drafted?
No, we were real. He understood that, hey, it's like, look, you're probably going to get a tryout, kind of a free agent deal. Okay. But just go in there, work hard. We'll try to put you in the best possible position, get you on a team that didn't draft any receivers or is low on the receiver count, so you can go in there and have a real chance. So I knew going in that there was a low chance that I was going to get drafted because I knew I'm 6 foot, at least with these on, and I'm 200 pounds. I'm not 4'2'9". I'm not 6'5". You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I knew what type of player I was, and I knew I went to a smaller school. So all of that factored in, and I understood that. But going in,
but let me ask this, not to cut you off. But as a competitor, does it come a point in time
as a competitor, I'm like, ain't none of those receivers better than, what are you talking about?
Does it come a point?
Especially like Mr. Irrelevant, they chose a receiver out of Ohio that I had been watching because we were the same kind of height, weight. But he went to Ohio and played against, higher talent level and things like that. So I remember they called his name and I looked him up and I was like, man, I'm better than this dude, man. What they doing?
Right. So it's a blessing in disguise, though.
It's a blessing in disguise because the best part about being a free agent is that you can pretty much choose where you want to go. Obviously, you're not drafted. You still got to make the team. There's still some pretty large hurdles to go over, but you can choose, which team that's interested in you that you want to go to. So my agent calls me right after the draft, and he's like, man, you got the Seattle Seahawks, I think it was the Cleveland Browns, and the New York Giants. The New York Giants is the only team that has a contract waiting for you upon making the team. All the other 2 teams are just on a simple tryout basis for their rookie minicamp. And if they were impressed with me during that camp, I would progress and go to their training camp, but still have to make the team. So I was like, man, I'm picking the Giants. I didn't even think about it. And then after I say that, I kind of look and I was like, oh, they got about 10 receivers here. Okay, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna figure it out. So my draft experience, man, I remember my mom was just cleaning the house and just not trying to look at the TV. House was spick-span, but she's still sweeping. She's still finding some little dust ball in the corner to clean up. But once I told her I got the call, but once I did get the call and they told me, I'm part of the Giants, one of the scouts, Chris Pettit, called me right after that and was like, are you ready to be a Giant? you could not tell me that I wasn't drafted in that very moment. Like, I got the call. Like,
right.
So I found a hat. I went to their local pro day, so I had a Giants, like, little hat. And I walked outside, and obviously...
You bought your own hat?
They gave me a hat at the rookie...
okay. I thought you said you went to a local store and bought your own hat.
I would have. If I didn't have the hat, I most certainly would have beelined to the nearest...
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Dick's Sporting Goods for a hat. But I put and the best thing was, I was in Paterson, New Jersey at the time. If anybody knows that, it's the hood, for lack of better terms. And I put the hat on in the house, and I was like, let me go outside. It was a nice day. I go outside. Everybody's outside, like, waiting for me to, like, make an announcement, So I come outside casually with my hat on. I look across the street. Everybody's like, yeah. I was like, oh, God.
Well, everyone's out there like, we made it.
Yeah, like, oh, we did it.
We made
it.
We
did
it.
it.
We're out the hood now.
We're all going to MetLife.
Yeah. Yes. Let me ask you, what is like, because, I'm always, super fascinated by, you see these kids and, they're 9 feet tall and they're, multimillionaires and all this stuff. And then I think, and I'm like, wow, that kid's 18, that kid's 19. I couldn't imagine me at 18, 19, coming into $100 million or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. What's that transition like? And what do teams, at least in your experience, put in place for rookies to make that transition from being an amateur athlete to a professional and playing with grown-ass men?
I think from an NFL standpoint, our player development guy, my guy when I was there was Charles Way, former player. And then now it's David, towards the latter of my career, was David Tyree. Obviously, everybody knows David Tyree. And it's all about how, in that rookie year, you have so many meetings and so many scenarios and so many talks that they put you through to not just, battling things off the field with your family and saying no and things like that, but things like how to say no when you're in a nightclub situation, because those are real things that happen. How to walk away from a fight. Who should, what you should do.
We're discussing these types of scenarios.
Not just discussing it. We're painting scenarios on a stage like this in the auditorium, bringing people in, having these meetings, having this dialogue. So I think the NFL, and I think it's a team by team thing. Mm-hmm. I think all teams are doing it, but obviously it's scaled differently on other teams. I don't, I'm not there, so I don't know. But with the Giants, they make a concerted effort to not just talk to you about things that should benefit you on the field, but your finances, who you have in place, how you should vet these people out before, how they have resources in-house to vet these people out that are going to be managing your money or, teaching you or telling you what to do with your money. So all these different things, there are definitely some things in place, just a matter of you inquiring and being resourceful enough to go out there and reach out to those people.
So before we call our guest up, one last question as we have Giants fans here. Actually, 2 more questions, but one question. 2 words. Saquon Barkley. You excited about him? Is he the goods? How are we feeling about the Saquon pick, Giants fans? Are we feeling good? Yeah.
Now the Giants fans are
good. Yeah, I like it.
I love Saquon, man. I met him. He walked up on me in L.A. one time in this dark, kind of low-lit restaurant like this. And he literally, like if this was the light, his body just it was like a dark cloud. And I was like, who is this? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I valeted, sir. I valeted. So he walks up to me. He was like, yo, humble. I'm Saquon. It's an honor to meet you. I'd love to get your number so we can go back and forth and have a conversation so I can just pick your brain. I was just like, yo, any kid who's humble enough to be the first round pick of the New York Football Giants and humble enough to see an old man like myself and be like, yo, I want to build with you. I want to pick your brain about certain things. And I wasn't a first round pick. I wasn't, all these things. I was humbled by that. And I was like, absolutely. So just seeing that and then seeing the interviews he's done throughout OTAs and mini camp, just seeing what type of kid he is, he's perfect for the New York market. He's perfect for this team. And from a skill set perspective, he's gonna shock some people this year, in my opinion. So I think the Giants are gonna have a pretty good year.
I saw a picture of him. I'm securing my man. The man's thigh.
Saquads?
Yeah, it was Saquads, you call it?
They call him Odell Payne. He tweeted this out, and it's apparently like, they call him Saquads.
Saquads?
Saquads, yeah.
The man,
it's crazy, yeah.
I don't even know how do you walk like that? Like just...
You can start.
That's why I don't even lift like that. I don't want to get like super big.
You don't want to get too crazy?
Yeah, it's like I couldn't sit like this right now.
Because if you started to work out, that would be inevitable.
Well, because if I started to work out, the podcast is top priority for me. I can't sit like this with.
I'm going to get to our guest now.
Squats like this.
Because I'm not
going to let you know. One last question.
Talk to me.
We have a lot of Giants fans in the building.
Okay.
We have a lot of football fans. We have fans of yours and mine, but it's not about me. It's about you. what are you up to? What's going on with you? Football, life? What can you tell them?
I didn't know. We didn't.
Yeah, it wasn't on there. It wasn't on
this
there.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm still training to work out.
Okay.
I'm still training to play football and still going to be ready in case that phone call rings. But I have put myself on somewhat of a deadline, somewhat of a date, to know that if nothing happens around this time, I'll hang them up. I'll retire and just keep doing cool stuff like this, and people still coming to hang out and watch us talk and do different things, some TV things that are in the works. So I'm excited for the future, but football is, it's twofold, Pete, because my heart is like, man, I can still play this game.
Of course.
Physically, I know I can still play this game. I know I can still play it at a high level and help a team win ball games. But mentally, because I've been kind of out of it these past years, I'm already 2-3 steps ahead trying to do other things to advance, myself and my brand and my career outside of football. So I'm battling that. And then when your mom is Puerto Rican and she keeps telling you that she doesn't want you to play football anymore because she doesn't want to see you have another concussion.
Yeah.
That kind of takes a toll on you, too.
Is that a factor? Is that football more than any other sport, does that factor into, and whether it's you or just athletes in general that are making this tough decision in their career, does that factor into the decision-making, like injuries and concussion specifically? That's a real
Absolutely. Thing. I mean, especially for myself, who's had my fair share of injuries. I've had a concussion before. I've tore my patella tendon. I know what it feels like to be on that field, giving it everything you got, and then in one play or 1 second, all of that can change. So definitely that weighs on me. But if I made the decision, if I had a phone call to go back and play, I'd have to subdue all of that and just go out there and play the game of football.
And it's a grind. It's like I've heard athletes say, I could play another year, I couldn't do another training camp.
Oh, 100%. If I could skip training camp and just train on my own for a couple months and then see you in September, absolutely. But there are parts of training camp that you need. You need that, that camaraderie with the fellas. It's not even about, the plays and being in the sun and all that. You need that camaraderie to get on the same page as your brothers that you're going to spend 90% of your time with for the next 5-6 months. You know what I'm saying? To go potentially win a Super Bowl trophy. That's what the overall goal is, and you have to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Not just physically with the X's and O's, but emotionally. Are you good? How are you? Be a friend and be someone to these people because that's what this is all about. In order to win, everyone has to be even keeled on the same page so we can all move forward towards the main goal.
Last question, I promise, and we'll bring.
You said it was 2.
Yeah, we're in it. We're in it now.
We got to guess. If you do end up walking away from the game, what will you miss most? I know that's a loaded question. It is a loaded question. 2 things. One, just the thunderous Cruz chants on 3rd down when I would catch a 3rd down or a touchdown or whatever the case. I mean, you got to miss that. That's the most surreal thing. It's the kid from Paterson, New Jersey that grew up watching the Giant Stadium and driving past that stadium and to be able to walk in there and hear your name called and people know who you are and you decided to do this silly dancing in the end zone when you score and people will always remember you for that. I think that, that's one of the biggest things I'll miss the most. And secondly, just the locker room. Those idle times between meetings and between traveling and in the hotels and going to dinner with the fellas, those are the stories that I'm going to miss. Those are the times that I'm going to miss and the moments that you don't get back. So, between those 2 things, that's what I'll miss the most for sure.
It's what I'm when I stopped playing basketball, senior year in high school.
All right, guys, we have a lovely treat for you.
It's okay.
I won't even give him the long, crazy intro because I just want to get him out here and kind of dig into his.
I'm actually very excited about how he's perfect for this room as well.
So he is the CEO of Relevant Sports.
Yep.
And his knowledge for business and sports and everything goes a long way. Everybody give a round of applause for our guy, Danny Silman.
Danny!
Good, brother.
You weren't going to let me on.
You want to give this guy the middle?
Yeah, let's let him have it.
Okay, cool.
It's his show.
I'm just lucky you guys let me out here.
Hey, if someone else comes, I'm not leaving.
We got no more chairs, so you're fine.
So Danny, we're going to talk about, first of all, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to talk about your current role as CEO at Relevant, but I think just equally as interesting, I want to talk about how you got to your current role, which I think is not only fascinating, but will be super helpful for a lot of the people in this room that are either in the business of sport or trying to get into the business of sport or, further their career in the business of sport. University of Michigan.
Right? I did, yes.
Which you remind me literally every other Tuesday. Talk to us a little bit about that. You went University of Michigan, and you did business school
at Michigan.
Right? Steve Ross.
Stephen Ross.
Right?
Don't forget that.
You cannot forget that. And I think for me, I was blown away when I found out that you co-called Steve Ross. So for those of you that may not know Stephen Ross is owner of the Miami Dolphins.
Related companies, real estate, Equinox, SoulCycle, Rumble Boxing now.
He's got a couple of dollars.
He's got a couple.
Yeah, the guy. He's
a couple different businesses.
He's doing his thing.
So pretty much he owns everything I do on the weekend.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly. Everything that you do.
Okay, got it.
So you co-call Stephen Ross.
Well, I'll back up a step.
Please do.
So I'm in business school at Michigan, and Vic will relate to this if anybody. I'm friends with a guy named Brandon Graham. And Brandon happened to play for the Eagles this year. Vic played on the other side of him for a while. Mm-hmm. And through my friendship with BG, I'm watching his transition from college athletics to the pros. And, agents are starting to wait outside the tunnel when he's at Michigan, financial advisors, all sorts of different people in the business of sports. And Brandon says, hey, I'm meeting all these financial advisors. What does a financial advisor do? And very long story short, what I realized was financial advisors are someone who manages your investments. But that title kept throwing off Brandon. Well, why doesn't he do everything in my life financially? And he didn't have the familial background or the education, just from an experience standpoint, he'd been playing football, to set himself up from a business standpoint. So started looking into the industry and said, why aren't there businesses that aggregate accounting, tax, estate planning, investments, insurance, all the shit that you need in your life to take care of your core business foundation before you go invest your money. So I started what is called a family office, which was basically just a vertically integrated financial solution to Brandon, and ultimately started marketing that to athletes and entertainers. I was fortunate enough, before the cold call to Steve Ross, actually met Mark Wahlberg and Joe Dumars, obviously both influential figures in the sports world, could be a mentor to myself of how to really understand the sports and entertainment business and what it meant to be an athlete or what it meant to be an entertainer, some of the things that obviously you've experienced.
And you started this while you were still in school.
Yes.
Which is insane to me.
Wow. And so I did that.
So how old are you at the time? Just so
20.
20 years old.
20.
I'm like trying to find beer money.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like starting.
Yeah, you don't want to know what my friends were doing while I was trying to run the business.
So you do that, and then
you
do it more. I don't want to say out of necessity, but you see an opportunity with BG
to take care of somebody I consider family.
Yep.
And I see an opportunity to build something unique where we can protect, really guys that, there's no other word than the word family. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a website. I actually don't have a Facebook account to this day because I didn't want people to realize how young I was at the time, pitching to take care of your money. So I didn't get Facebook. When Instagram came out, didn't get that. Twitter, and I still don't have it. So it was just a unique opportunity, and felt like we could take care of pro athletes, entertainers, and again, evolved that over 5 years, and then actually cold emailed Steve Ross and said, I'm a kid in the sports and entertainment business, went to your business school, this is what I'm doing, would you take 10 minutes with me? And he responded in 20 minutes, gave me the opportunity to come meet him. It was a 10:30 at night meeting at the business school in Michigan, and I sat with him from 10:30 till 1:30. We built a relationship, and he ultimately said, your business is shit, come work with me. I said, I thought I created something good. And so I subsequently sold the business to a group out of KPMG who wanted to be more into the athlete entertainment world, and went to run M&A at Stevens Sports Investment Company.
So let me ask you, so I know the way, first of all, let's give him a round of applause. I mean, that's pretty... So I know the way we met was you basically co-called my business partner, Maverick Carter, right?
Yes.
So
is this a thing?
This is a thing.
If someone would have told me that, I'd be co-calling Andy Reid. I'd be co-calling all these coaches right now. Like, hey,
everybody.
Hi guys, I'm here.
So what's the thinking behind it? It's like you see something that can help you?
I read a lot. Even though I don't have social media of my own, handles, I follow what people are doing. I know you were at Fashion Week last week. And I know, I study what's going on. I have a very curious personality, and there's certain people like your business partner Maverick, and watching what you've done, Nike, Beats, now building Robot Company, where I've wanted to be around or learn from certain individuals. And when I reached out to Mav, it was purely just because I was so interested in what he had created with LeBron's business and Spring Hill Entertainment and Robot and LRMR and everything that you guys have accomplished as a group of business partners. I just wanted to meet Mav and just learn from him. And ultimately, that's what forged our partnership and friendship, more importantly.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I remember speaking to Mav right after you guys met. And I was like, oh, how was your meeting? Because it was in our office. And he goes, it was fine. He said, I said, how was I called you the kid. I was like, how was the kid? He's like, that kid's going to be president of the United States if he wants to, commissioner of the NFL. He's like, so I think I want to be friends with him. You know what I'm saying? It was the thing. But I think what he appreciated was that you didn't, far too often, when people do that, when they do the cold call, it's something directly beneficial to them. Like, hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? Hey, hire me. Hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? Hey, buy this, right? I think he respected, I know I can speak for him in this, I know he respected, it was like what you just said. I just want 10 minutes of your time. Would love to learn and kind of hear your thing and kind of pick your brain. There wasn't anything immediately like, can you do this for me? And I think that's one of the biggest nuggets I took away from it, that it's like, just someone's time is valuable. And obviously you guys have vacation together at this point, as we all have, whatnot. So that to me is always like my favorite part of
We can go into the Super Bowl trips if you want.
Yes, no, we won't do that on this trip. But to me that's always been super interesting. And as we thought of like you being a guest, it was like I thought it'd be helpful. Like, it doesn't have to be in the traditional sense of networking events and those types of things. As great as they are, if you find someone that you think is doing something in a field that you want to potentially do and has been successful in, don't be afraid to reach out to them.
Exactly. So Danny, my question to you is, I have a two-part question. One, what's your client list right now? I know Draymond, he's part of the family. But where do you see the all-encompassing entertainment, sports agencies like yourself going? Where do you see the market going? Where do you see basketball, for example? Where do you see the NFL? Where do you see these things growing in the long term?
Well, it's interesting. So when I sold the business and I went to RSE, it was really an investment role. And now I'm at Relevant, which our core business is actually building soccer properties, building other events. We work on all of Stevens, Dolphins, Miami Open tennis. We have the International Champions Cup soccer tournament. And the core business is really building live entertainment events. And the reason Draymond's relationship with me has carried on to the point where I still, consider myself a partner advisor is because he's family. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing specific to athletes is trying to invest in people that want to build businesses. And we don't want to be a transactional agency that's just working for our 10 or 20% commission, whatever it is. It's how can we partner Draymond with, Equinox to go build Blink gyms, which are, a value gym that Equinox created, $10, $20 a month. It's something that he can own, and now Draymond has the largest territory for Blink gyms in, the United States. Oh. And so an agency would typically say that doesn't work. I don't make a 20% commission. It's not a sponsorship deal, as you know. Mm-hmm. So where I want to take it is working with a few guys that we can actually build businesses with. We can invest alongside them. We can actually help build operating teams and listen to what their business goals are. And I do, to answer the second part of your question, I do see the industry going that way. Mm-hmm. I think agencies will always be agencies from the standpoint of they got to do a contract for a player with a team, as you know. And they've got to do marketing deals with, Beats, Nike, whoever it is, memorabilia sponsors. But I think they're going to start to figure out how to evolve, and they're starting to learn more and more and finally ask the question instead of say, Vic, what the hell do you want?
Exactly.
Not telling Vic, this is what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. Because athletes are getting so much smarter.
Agreed.
Access to information is happening in a way that it hasn't before. And I think, to PR's point, what's the fucking difference if I reach out to somebody and they don't respond to me? And I think athletes are getting more courage to say, it's a huge transition from the field, the pitch, the court, whatever it is, off the field, but they're getting more comfortable to reach out to business professionals. Yep. And they want to be partners. I mean, you look at everything LeBron's done, there's no better example of, becoming a business person, setting himself up for life after sports. So I see at some point the typical agency model being totally disintermediated, mm-hmm. and people with a focus on building businesses, which are going to need a lot more capital. I mean, the reason Draymond, I think, would say beyond that, we can help him with all of his different business affairs, which is the easy part, but looks to us to build businesses. So we're putting money alongside him.
Yeah.
So we're not going into anything that we wouldn't believe in with him. That's my feeling. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think you want to be in business with someone that has they're in it with you. That makes you feel comfortable. That's like, well, if he's in it, if he loses money, or if if this doesn't work, he's in it with me. We both going down. You know what I mean? But if both of our money is in it and both of our hearts are in it, we're going to make sure that this thing is fruitful and that this thing is going to grow. And I do think that the agency model is going to change somehow because athletes are getting smarter. We're understanding what type of brand we want. Some guys already know now more than before what type of brand that they want to exude to the people and are aligning themselves with those type of people. So I think the agency model is going to change where you start to see guys owning a lot of their own things and being able to have an all in-house encompassing thing where it has your financial advisor and it's not so segmented. And I think it's only a matter of time before it becomes a trend.
And I think it's going to actually go, to your point, from talent actually across the standard agency platform. And, a lot of agencies right now buy media rights from different leagues. So they'll, buy Serie A. IMG just bought Serie A, the Italian Football League, media rights, and they're going to go sell them globally. And I can tell you we're going to announce a deal in the next 45 days where we're partnering with a league, a European football league, for the next 15, 20 years to actually build their business. And instead of selling their media rights for a guarantee of dollars to an agency, they're saying, I want a partner who's going to invest capital in the business with me and who's not just focused on selling media rights. They're going to help us build youth activities. They're going to help us with sponsorship. They're going to help us actually understand how to connect with culture of America and make our league relevant. And they're going to do it as a 50-50 partner. So one of the things that I'm listening to a lot in the marketplace is that, the idea of an agency, the idea of a broker isn't always necessary unless the broker is actually a partner. So I think it's talent. I think it's leagues. I think you're going to see an evolution, and I think companies like IMG who have done it so well will be ahead of the curve. And I think some of these old school models with agencies, unless they start watching what's happening around them, they're going to go by the wayside.
So I have a season tickets question, but I'll save that. I'll save that for later.
Let me ask both of you a question. You as an athlete, you as an executive manager for talent. What is your process when an opportunity comes your way? What is your process when someone has, whether it's an opportunity to invest or an opportunity to partner with something? What is the thought process that goes into you as the talent and you as managing or partnering with that talent? What are some of the things you process?
I think for me as a talent, it's all about a feeling you get on the initial question of, hey, I have this. Once you read through the ask on what it is and what you'll be doing and what it's about, you kind of get a feeling in your stomach. I'm like, okay, this feels good. Okay, I like to do this. A, is it something I like? B, would I be comfortable doing what they're asking me to do? And C, does this improve the brand, the overall scheme? Is this another step in the cog of where I want this brand to go? And literally those three things are what I think about immediately, and then I make a decision based off that, pretty much.
You, Denny,
From my standpoint, it starts with, if you're working with an athlete brand, it starts with asking the athlete what they actually have an interest in. I mean, as I look at it, it's really understanding, I would ask Vic, if we work together, what are your business goals? What do you want to learn about? Where does it fit? And to his point, it's not just about money, it's about, are you emotionally invested in something? From a diligence standpoint, I think the business diligence is pretty easy. You start, I would start asking people in the industry for which the business we're looking at exists, what competitors think, what's going on in the marketplace, what other investment firms think, other people that are invested in the business. But, before you get there, it's really understanding, does that fit the mission for the brand? Like any brand, I think Vic's no different than Beats by Dre. It's different than, Starbucks. They're all brands. They all have business missions, brand missions, and it's got to fit in there.
I agree. We got about 10 minutes left. We're going to go for about 3 more. What do you want to do?
Yeah, we'll do like 3-4 more minutes and then open it up for questions.
And then open it up for Q&A.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So, relevant, right? I think you're spending most of your time these days on the business of soccer.
Yep.
Why soccer, right? I think you have unlimited access, right, to all other sports, right? Football, whether it be through Mr. Ross and the Dolphins and the NFL, basketball through Dre. Why soccer and why now?
I'm going to try and do this in 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in And it's really Steve Ross and Charlie Stilitano and a guy named John Scheinman who actually started the International Champions Cup, which is a franchise that we own. And it brings the biggest European football clubs to North America and to Asia for a tournament every July and August. And what they realized, and really what Steve recognized when he was buying the Dolphins, was Miami is a really difficult sports market. I'm really grinding it out to sell tickets in this marketplace. There's a million different options if you're a consumer of any sort of content, whether it's a concert, going to the beach, Disney World, whatever it is. But I can sell a Barcelona match out in 2 hours. Wow. And he was watching the interest for the sport through a pretty international audience down in South Florida, and started recognizing what was happening with European football coming to America, what was happening with the MLS and the growth of the domestic game. And ultimately, I think over the last few months, we've noticed it even more. We've got a World Cup coming in 2026. We've got everything going on in terms of the expansion of the MLS. They're going to be up to 26 teams soon. You've got European media rights that are doubling in value. I mean, the EPL, just to give you an idea, is almost $200 million that NBC pays for those rights, which is 4 times the MLS. You got Serie A going up to $65 million. I go on and on with all the stats, but the value of media rights for football in America or soccer, the value of the social media audiences of the biggest brands in the world coming to America, Real Madrid, Man United, so on and so forth, Barcelona, whoever it is, it's a tremendous opportunity to tell a story for them, and that story starts on the pitch. So it's our job to create an amazing experience around the tournament we created. It's 18 of the biggest clubs in the world, 3 matches apiece. There's 1 winner every year. We have a youth event we've created that's like a Little League World Series with European clubs, world clubs, state all-star teams, women's game, and we've really invested in bringing a new sport and a new interest to America. And frankly, one of the biggest things that we're trying to learn is how do we connect soccer to culture in America? And that's why Robot and Mav and PR and Vic have been such good partners to us, because ultimately celebrities, athletes, American influencers are the ones that are going to take the basketball fan and say, hey, it's fucking cool to watch Ronaldo and Neymar and Messi. And these guys have a massive impact internationally, but we're going to help them build their brands in North America and Asia. So we, for all of those reasons and more, really saw an opportunity to be ahead of the game in terms of building a property, an event that ultimately would give the platform to do that. And from there, it's investing in entertainment, it's investing in fan experience.
So what's next? What are you guys working on right now that you can tell us about that you're excited about?
I'm most excited about our youth events. For us, it's been 5 years of this marquee tournament. It's Messi's, the Ronaldos, the Neymars, the Pogba, whoever it is, the top players. And what we're doing at the grassroots level now, we bought a business called Alianza de Football. It's the largest multicultural soccer business in North America. It's a lot of kids that aren't getting opportunities to go through the standard U.S. soccer system that get to participate in the sport. Guys like Jonathan Gonzalez from the Mexican national team. The Futures event we created that I just described, it's 8 European football clubs, 8 world teams, 8 MLS youth teams, 8 state all-star teams. You're taking kids, the California State All-Star team, it's kids from Compton, Crenshaw, all these kids from inner cities that would typically play football and basketball that are now getting an opportunity to go play against Bayern Munich's youth team down at Disney with ESPN. So one, they get to be on broadcast TV. It's like Elite 11 for football.
Exactly.
But it's world and it's states and it's a global platform. And for us, I think it's our obligation to invest in grassroots. So that's one of the most exciting things that I think we're working on.
Is it safe? I'm sorry. Is it safe to say, with the World Cup being on American soil in 2026,
Yes.
that there will be at least one player playing in a youth tournament that will play in the World Cup in 2026?
I think it's going to be 20, 25 more. And that, to your point, we're not doing something right if we're not providing a platform that the youth you're watching at this U14 age range, in 8 years, they're 22 years old. Those are absolutely World Cup players.
It's crazy because I remember growing up, we didn't have any soccer leagues. I knew what soccer was, but I didn't know enough of it to want to play it. I didn't see it around enough for it to interest me. And the same thing with sports like lacrosse. I didn't know what lacrosse was until I got to college. And I was like, what are they running around doing with those sticks?
What got you excited about football?
What got me excited about football was I started playing football when I was 11 years old. But even at that time, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't get excited until my dad begged the head coach. He was one of the coaches, but he begged the head coach, like, put him at running back for one play, and let's see what happens. He's like, if he trips and falls on his face, then he'll never have to be back there ever again. I went back to running back, gave me the ball. I ran 55 yards for a touchdown, like shook 2 dudes and scored a touchdown. And in that moment, that feeling of getting in the end zone, even at that age of 11 years old, I was like, this is for me. This is what I want to do. That feeling, I wanted to feel that feeling over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what our goal is with our tournament, is bringing these stars over here, bringing these ridiculously, just give you an idea of scale. The Giants, in this room, everybody's going to look at me like I'm crazy, but they're 1/50th of the brand of Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. The impact in terms of scale of the following of the fans is on a different scale. And if we can start telling that story in America, and that's why PR and Robot Company have been so helpful to us, figuring out how to connect to the culture of America, how to tell that story, and use Ronaldo to ultimately inspire a kid that's 11 years old to want to be in the Futures event, then we have a platform to allow people to be interested in soccer.
100%.
But I think it takes us, it takes the MLS, it takes Liga MX, it takes it physically being here, to your point, to make it accessible for kids to even want to play it.
Because I know if I would have saw a video of like Pele or like anybody from Brazil at that moment in time, when I was 11, I definitely gave soccer a shot.
I have plenty of highlight tapes still at my mom's. If you
How much time is left in this?
Question, 5 years from now, what's success for you? What are you looking back and saying, like, yes, I'm proud of the work we've done at Relevant?
There's a couple projects that I can't get into, but it's to evolve soccer in America at the next level. And it's taking our core portfolio of properties or franchises that we have, and it's furthering our relationship with FIFA, UEFA, US Soccer, and continuing to evolve those in some aspect. It's taking a couple talent brands like Neymar or Draymond and continuing to help them to actually build businesses. And it's taking a partnership with a league, which we're working on and we'll announce together soon. And to our point about where agencies are going, it's showing that a 50-50 partnership with the league, A to Z, in terms of helping them with everything at grassroots to potentially playing matches here to being involved in their media rights, that we can do that successfully. And ultimately, I think we'll be able to use our credibility in football or soccer to lead into doing more with other sports.
Perfect. So before we open it up for questions, where can they go? Is there a site they can go to kind of learn about what you have going on?
It ain't
summer?
Facebook. I know that. He doesn't have
Definitely Facebook, definitely Instagram. So where can they go?
We don't have social media.
Relevant with everything you're doing. Where can they go to kind of schedules, that type of stuff?
So internationalchampionscup.com, which is the name of our tournament, has everything in terms of the schedule for our tournament, for our youth tournament, skills contests, everything we're doing on the youth side as well as our women's tournament. And then obviously relevantsports.com, which is our holding company for all of these assets.
Awesome. Okay.
We do have social media.
They do. You do not. They do.
Not me.
Any questions in the crowd for anyone? For Victor?
Coming around with the mic.
There we go.
Hi. My name is Naomi Collier. I just wrote down my question, so I would get it right.
What was your name?
Naomi Collier. I'm with CSM Lead Dog. I'm actually a student at Mizzou, so that's why I told you. Yeah.
You were like Purdue. She's like Mizzou.
Yeah.
My bad.
Hey, I know it's all black and gold, but there's a difference. My question is really for all of you guys, but more so Daniel and Paul. I'm interested in providing solutions similar to what Daniel was talking about earlier, as far as athletes being able to maximize and tailoring like their interests to their career and having that like outside of sports. So my question is more so how can the NCAA maybe provide some nuance to the current structure so that student athletes who are transitioning to being professionals can be better set up to have that career that reflects their personal interests?
Good question. You want to take it?
I can take it. I would even say it's probably actually best for Vic. He was there.
Pay the kids. I mean, at the end of the day, we have
to get right to it, huh? Pay the kids.
But there's a way. There has to be. I'm not saying to give these kids $10,000 a semester, but there's got to be a way because, let's be honest, these kids are getting the money anyway. Whether it's through an agent or whether it's backdooring it through a school, as we've seen, unfortunately, they're getting the money anyway. So it's a matter of how do we. Because the NCAA is using their name and likeness, they're using their assets, they're making commercials with them. So how do we set up a structure where they're compensated for their jersey sales, for their name being in NCAA, the Madden game or whatever the case may be, like these video games? There's got to be a way to structure it so these kids can monetize from it, and not just the good kids. There's over 60-something players on each team in college. Everyone has to get paid, so there has to be a structure on how those kids get paid, and how they get there is where where the hard work is.
And the one thing I'd add is I think the college, whatever it is, whatever governing body it is, NCAA or whoever else, has to finally address this is a problem,
Right.
and try to create a solution and move decisively to make a decision what that is. Even from the financial standpoint, I agree with you on creating an economic system that involves the players, that they share in the money that's being made, but also stop being afraid to let them meet agents, let them meet business people, let them meet all the different...
Because they're meeting them
anyway.
anyway.
So just create a structure around it where you can actually educate them on who's good and who's bad instead of letting them figure it out on their own, because by not addressing it, you're letting them fall on their ass instead of just sitting next to them and having the educational component, bringing in former players, bringing in mentors. We do it to PR's point, I'm cold reaching out to everybody I can. The reason that I'm even sitting here with you guys is because I'm lucky enough to have great mentors around me. Why is the NCAA or any governing body at the college level not saying, hey, Vic, we need to help you get the right mentors around you, whether you're interested in your football career or you're interested in fashion. Yep. Obviously one of your best friends, both you guys, is Ronnie Feig. Why can't Ronnie come talk to kids at college that are interested in fashion? Yep. Why, there's a lot of questions that I think they need to answer as to why it is so bad to start the educational aspect of it, earlier.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'd agree. And just to piggyback off of what Danny said, I think, the first thing is admitting there is a problem, right? And I think if you look at just the business and the state of college sports, everything has evolved except the NCAA. The sport has evolved, the student athletes have evolved, the business around sport has evolved, TV, content, everything's evolved except the model, and that's a problem. And that's why you have the problem we have today. So, no problem. No problem. Other questions? I have a couple. One over there.
This is for Vic. First of all, I still haven't forgiven you for your 77-yard touchdown against my Redskins in 2012.
Nothing I can do about that one now. You got to eat that one.
But, nowadays, a lot of athletes have actually been making their own podcasts, just to name a few, like J.J. Redick, C.J. McCollum, Richard Jefferson. It seems like, for the most part, most of them are pretty much, they have similar styles, or, they talk about pretty much similar content. What do you think your podcast and your ideas, what do you think you bring that kind of differentiates your pod from the other athletes?
That's a good question. I think
Clearly me.
What'd you say? You?
Clearly me.
I'm not going to talk to you while you're sitting like that. I know this is live now, so I don't get to see you on the podcast, but I'm not going to do
This is my new podcast posture. That's how I sit.
So I think the difference between my pod, I think, is that from a not just an athlete perspective, but as an entrepreneurial perspective, I've covered a lot more ground than a lot of other athletes. I live comfortably in so many different worlds and can speak openly about so many different topics, whether it's fashion, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, all sports, whether it's, current events, things that are going on within our country, things that are going on within, our day-to-day lives that affect us each and every day. I'm a dad. So just a lot of these different things I think I can speak to in a more casual way and in a more direct way than a lot of these, I don't want to say other athlete pods, but I guess other athlete pods. I think, and on top of all that, we like to have fun. I mean, we're just up here having a good time. A lot of times there's, I'm not drinking, but he might be drinking sometimes. So that makes for some fun. I don't really drink when we're live. But I just think that my knowledge of so many different things and an array of so many different topics makes this podcast a little bit different than others.
And what I would say also is Victor's very disciplined when it comes to his authenticity of his brand. Right? He says no a lot more than he says yes. So if it doesn't make sense.
I still don't understand why you guys let me on this.
You were perfect for this, right?
Raymond or me?
No, I think, you'll never see anything attached to his podcast that isn't Victor, right? If you know him, whether it's on or off the field, Everything we do, everything we cover, everything we discuss is Victor. It's actually, to be honest with you, stuff that he'd be discussing if there wasn't a mic or a camera. So I think authenticity to his brand is probably a big one as well. I think there were some questions in the middle as well. Go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Alex. I'm from Toronto. Big soccer fan, and my question's for Daniel. So as the MLS has grown, a couple of the reasons, or at least I've been told that it's gotten so successful, has been one, soccer-specific stadiums, and then two, bringing over European greats, usually during their old age. However, that has given the MLS the reputation of a retirement league. What's it going to take to put the MLS to the next level? At what point does the MLS become like the Premier League, or when do we have an American who stays in the MLS and becomes a designated player?
I think it's a good question. I think that, through our partnership with the MLS, obviously we provided the all-star opponent for the last couple of years and for the next 3 years moving forward. And we hope to keep working with the league to develop interest and convert football fans, basketball fans, hockey fans, baseball into being interested in soccer. And I think it's done hopefully using the European football stars and the brands of these European clubs, the MLS, and I think they've done a phenomenal job. Obviously they've got work to do, but they've done a really good job. And we'll both work together in terms of driving the grassroots game, because ultimately until the next Victor Cruz wants to play soccer, it's going to be hard to get those stars over here in America, because the academy systems, the grassroots programming is so strong in Europe that that's where the best players are going. So we need to work along with MLS and US Soccer and Liga MX in Mexico and everybody here in North America to build the infrastructure to even get the next stars interested in the game. And so that's why, to my point with Vic and asking him, how he got interested in football, it's our job to get the next group of people, that are 5 years old now, 10 years old, 15, whatever it is, interested in the sport.
I'm definitely getting to you. The mic's in the back.
Hi, my name's Ellen. I'm also from Toronto. I'm here with a digital sports news startup called The Gist. And just kind of piggybacking off of that question, grew up playing soccer, totally obsessed. But one thing about soccer is that it can be a little bit of a snooze to watch on TV, which I think is sometimes why it's not as popular as the NFL, NBA, or hockey in Canada. So I'm wondering if you're going to be doing anything different to actually make it more exciting for the fan who's not at the stadium, but who's actually watching from home.
I mean, we're starting to do that. I can't change the format of the actual rules that FIFA puts in place or the leagues, but one of the things that we are doing is partnering with guys like PR and Vic to create different properties. Like this year we created a thing called House of Soccer. And House of Soccer is basically a clash of music, art, influencers, celebrities, youth programming, women, and it's a destination almost like House of Hoops for the NBA, where people can actually go and participate with the sport beyond the pitch. And I think those things will start carrying over to your experience at home, because you'll start participating via social media. We're working with NextVR to do virtual reality experiences. We're working with and collaborating with brands like we did last year with Kith, or with Momofuku this year, or different brands that I think you can resonate with, where you start to connect the game in different ways beyond just the in-home experience. So for us, it's about addressing everything around it, understanding that live sports are entertainment. I think the NBA has probably done the best job of any domestic league in America of doing that, and really, you have a fashion correspondent now covering NBA players and how they go into the game, and you seem to be able to access almost everything about the players and really understand who they are. So for us, it's trying to tell the story of the players, tell the story of the game, work with different brands around it, creating properties like House of Soccer. And we think we're 1 out of 10 in terms of where we'll be in doing that. That's my personal opinion.
I think we got time for one more.
Yeah. Well, let's do 3 more questions. We're already over, so can we bring them?
Literally says 0. He's like, we got 3 more questions.
3 more questions. They'll cut our mics off. So there we go. We got a mic there, and then we'll come over here to the middle.
Hey, this is a question for Victor. We were talking about like what you would post on social media and how you have your mother look at everything, or what would she do? And then Paul was talking about whether the Paul George was too much content, things like that. So I think that you've done a really good job, especially from the NFL, where players don't have as much face time with fans as the NBA, where they're not wearing a helmet all the time. I'm not even a Giants fan, and I feel like I know you pretty well. Whereas some of the players in the NBA, I didn't think I would enjoy the Paul George thing, but I did watch the first like 15 minutes. It was short, but it was interesting because I always thought that free agency was all a business, and a lot of NBA players like LeBron make it seem like he's all about the business all the time. And you want to have that feeling with athletes that, because for a fan, we're not about the business. Like, I know sports is a business, but for me, it's sports. So I guess, how would you say that you were effective in conveying your personality and your character away from the game while still being able to have a strong brand that makes money and things like that?
That's a good question. I think I just do a good job of expressing myself, right? Whether it's photos on Instagram or my IG story or, uninterrupted and doing this podcast for people to see. I just always wanted to do a good job of conveying myself. I didn't want to give, because, you can see the curated posts that are all like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm this, I'm that. I want to have, show times with my daughter. I want to show times when I'm with my mom and we're just hanging out and having a good time. Then I'll post a photo from France at the Balmain fashion show, or, a photo of me at the Louis Vuitton show mixed into there. So you get everything. You get the full spectrum. You get Victor Cruz, the athlete. You get Victor Cruz, the father, the son. And then you get Victor Cruz, the fashion guy, or whatever the case may be. So I just always wanted to do a good job of making sure that you get all of me. And I think part of that is some of the reason why I've gotten some of the opportunities that I've gotten, because I've put good things out there into the universe from a social media standpoint.
Mr. Mike right there.
They're going to kick us out of here, by the way.
Yeah, what is it, one more, two more? We have
Hello.
him then in the white right there after him. There we go.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. How you doing? I'm also a Jersey guy. My name's Deion
There
Chester,
we go.
financial analyst with CBS. I just had a quick question for all of you guys, because I remember you saying earlier that you wouldn't be here if you had a mentor, right? But you didn't touch on the topic of Jameis Winston and just many of the athletes that constantly get in trouble or constantly in some alleged situation. Are they not self-aware, or would you consider him kind of like lost? Because I believe that if he had a mentor or the right people around him, he wouldn't be constantly getting in these alleged situations.
Look at the football player, right? That was the cue.
Like, what?
It's tough because one, you have to look at the type of person he is. I don't know Jameis personally, or any athlete that I don't know that has gotten in trouble. I don't know them personally, so I can't speak to their mindset and how they think about their daily lives when they do things. But I do think part of it is exactly that, having mentors and having guidance and people that are around them to say no. Essentially, you got to have people that are around you to say, yo, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to steal these crawfish from this supermarket. You need to go home. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Allegedly,
of course.
Allegedly.
But those are the type, you got to have those people around you. You got to have that one guy you can call weekly and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with this week. What do I need to do? That guy for me is Harry Carson. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have, a Giants Hall of Famer to call on, but Jameis has those same resources. He can call on anyone pretty much that he wants to. I'm sure anyone will take a Jameis Winston call. You know what I'm saying? So he just has to figure out, is it his own mindset that's causing these negativities and causing him to stay in trouble, or is it the guidance factor that he needs someone to call on when things are going bad? Hey, I'm about to do something. Let me call my mentor to see if it's a good idea first.
We had one more right here, I think.
Hi, and my question's for Vic. What do you think is key for you and for any up and coming athlete for juggling all these different kind of priorities, like your game on the field, especially to building your brand, to being with your family? What do you think is key to like succeeding really high and all those different things?
I think the key to that is time management. I think you have to understand exactly how much time you want to devote to each category without overextending yourself and still giving time for your family and the things that you want to do. I think it can be very difficult. Like, for example, this month alone, I'm traveling for a greater portion of the month, but my daughter's coming with me for a portion of that. So I have to, you have to just cog it in and piece it in however you want to do it. But it's definitely a struggle, and it's definitely something that's tough because when you're in this world and you want to do things and travel and do all these things you want to do to progress your brand, it's hard to to segment that time because you're stretched in 9 different directions. So you have to make a concerted effort to say, okay, for this 2 weeks, I'm not doing anything. Tell everybody on your team, block out these 2 weeks. I'm going to spend time with my family, my daughter, go on a vacation, and things like that. And then after those 2 weeks, we get right back in the groove, and we're refreshed, and we can continue our business as we see fit.
So, want to thank Danny for coming on as our guest today.
Thank you.
And want to thank you guys for joining us. I mean, it's New York City. There's a million other things you could be doing.
And instead you're here with us, and we appreciate it. Tuning into the Victor Cruz Show, uninterrupted, Apple, iTunes, all that fun stuff. See you guys soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for coming out to Hashtag Sports 2018. It's obviously a wrap. And then don't forget, for those of you that are sticking around, we do have the happy hour open bar at WeWork Times Square. It's like a block and a half, actually like 4 or 5 blocks away. So it's open bar. We got food as well. It's good rooftop view that wraps around. So if you've RSVP'd, you can still RSVP. I think we probably have some room left. Be sure to check that out. And then also, of course, don't forget that we put up a lot of images. We make that available. We're going to put those out on Flickr and try to tag so people can go there to get it. Also a lot on social. And if you have any questions, not all the sessions, but the ones that were live streamed will be available. Yep, absolutely, for sure. And then we'll also be sending out some updates at the end of the day and making some announcements about 2019. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.